So welcome to Power Talk with Sonny Antonio. Today we're going to talk about something that the average person today is working on. People are flipping their houses, they're buying houses, they're upgrading their houses. We have a lot of projects where people will buy a house and they want to upgrade to EV chargers, and they want to have solar, and they want to have electrical everything, since gas is being kind of phased out. So that brings up a point. So now you have a house that you've purchased. You need to do a study to find out what's out there. Electrically, what's my panel size? First, you got to figure out what's there. Do I have a 200 amp? Do I have a 100 amp? What do I have? 125? Is it an older home where I have the old knob and tube wiring? That's the first thing you want to figure out when you start playing with the power source. Secondly, you need to get a hold of either a consultant, a power consultant, work with your civil, work with your architect, work with your electrician, to get with somebody who can tell them what's out there and what's going to have to happen so they can bring in new power. Be aware that in the areas of most PG&E, Edison, SMUD areas, anyone's in California, the big issue you're going to have to be concerned about is two things. One, what's my power source going to be? Am I going to bring a 400 amp or a 600 amp panel? And that brings a big difference. 400 amp residential panel has to go underground. For instance, that power pole out in front of your house has an overhead service feeding you. Now that service has to go underground to a pad mount transformer, that big old green box that we all see around subdivisions and around shopping centers. That's called the transformer. So now you have to ask yourself, I'm going to spend that kind of money. I got to have the cost of a transformer, cost of primary. I got to find a place to put that on my property so it doesn't look ugly. These are things you need to be looking at. Where can that transformer go? What about clearances around that transformer? I know that I have to have a certain distance around it for workability, for maintenance. I got to have so much footage in front. Check with your consultant, check with the power company, look at the rules and tariffs and manuals. If they've got a green book, pull out a green book. Make sure you know what they have to do. You're the builder. You're the guy flipping a house. You're the contractor or subcontractor. You need to know what's going on when you get out there. Very important, very critical. The next thing you need to talk about is some areas like PG&E, once you get to a 600 amp panel, you go to the next size larger, you now have to go to 3-phase power at your house. Understand what you have to have there. You need to create your team. Your civil, your architect, your landscaper, your electrician or electrical contractor with either the power company or a consultant. You need to start that early. Don't wait too long, because you have to know about landscaping areas. Where am I going to put this transformer if I have to landscape around it? What about, is it going to be in an area where my driveway comes in? Do I have water around it? Do I have storm around it? What about a bioswale? What about bioswale around it? So when you're planning to purchase a house, an old house, and you want to flip it, or you have a larger home that you want to expand, and happening a lot, to a bigger home, adding square footage, adding electrical loads, taking away the gas, because gas is now becoming obsolete in a lot of areas. Make sure you know what it is you're looking at. Make sure you understand what criteria you have to bring in that new electrical load. Critical. Electrical engineering firm, your architect, your civil, and your utility consultant, someone like us, or the power company. But I will share with you, a utility consultant is going to spend more time working with your team, because they're part of that team, than the power company. The power company is going to get you information, send it back, say, okay, we're ready to go, or whatever they might want to do. Do your homework. So now you've figured out that you have to have a larger panel. Where do I put that panel? Is that panel going to be inside a garage area? Is it going to be outside? Is it going to be weatherproof? With what happened from COVID, supply and demand is really tough. How far away can I get that switchgear? The earlier you know that switchgear and size, and the earlier you get the power company to approve that switchgear, the faster you can order it. Do not order a switchgear for anything, house, commercial, residential, subdivision, multi-unit, apartment complex, until that panel gets reviewed by the local power company. do not order that. So as soon as you can get that approved, as soon as you can get that looked at, you can order that. Those are long lead time items, anywhere from 4 to 6, mostly right now, 8 months and out. Larger the panel, the longer it's going to take to get that manufacturer to get it to you. Do your homework, plan, put together a team. Everybody's an expert at their area. Civil's an expert, architect's an expert, electrician's an expert from switchgear in the house, in the building, in the commercial building. Your consultants are experts of the utility laws and rules and regulations. You cannot start a plan, you cannot start a team, you cannot start too early for all those items. Be aware you need to know what your parameters are. Where do I have to trench? Am I going to be around water, storm, sewer? I cannot go through a bioswale. Got to be aware that I need to understand that part. And then once you get that put together and you get your electrical loads off, then you have to understand, where am I coming from? What source of the power company, where am I going to feed? You need to do your early homework. Switchgear information, load information, total load. If you have EV chargers, total load. If you're electrical, you're going to have a backup generator, total information. If you have solar, they have to know that stuff too, because that's going to impact how they're bringing things in. Make sure you know what's going on. Make sure you work with your electrician, our electrical engineering group. Everybody's an expert in their field. Use those experts. So now you've figured out that you have to upgrade that panel, and you know what you have to have. Make sure you all know what you have to have. How large is that switchgear? Where can I put it on my house? Do I have to put it on a garage? Have I got to build an outer building to keep it? Because those things get larger and larger. And also you need clearances in front of a switchgear. We've talked about clearance in front of a transformer. Now we need clearance in front of a switchgear. How much clearance do I need? Has it got to be on a concrete pad? That switchgear's got to be on a concrete pad. How thick? How wide? How far out can it go? Make sure that you put that pad, you pull the requirements from that power company. Each one's different. Make sure that that concrete pad is exactly the way they tell you. That you're supposed to be 2 inches, don't be 6. Now you got a problem. Meet all the specifications. Do not give them an opportunity to turn your project down or delay you to get power. The next thing you need to know is, once you get that switchgear and you know what it's going to be, as I talked earlier, have your consultant or your designer, whoever designing that electrical work, or whoever's going to coordinate with the power company, get that switchgear approved first, as fast as you can. Secondly, get a one-line diagram knowing every load, not total load, load, item by item, refrigeration, lighting, laundry, air conditioning, EV chargers. Some houses now, bigger houses, have an elevator load. Make sure you detail all that load so that when it goes into the power company, they know what that is, because every item has a different diversity factor, how much it's used during 24-hour period. Make sure you look at that. If you have questions, do not guess. Get a hold of the experts. Let the experts help you walk that through. So now you have the electrical load. Now you know that from your consultant or whatever, you know that it has to have X, Y, or Z. Know where you are. Get the power company, get your consultant to ask the power company, can I do a subsurface transformer, which means level to the ground? Probably not. That's become a no-no anymore, unless the city or a county requires and has an ordinance in their town. That's the only way you can do this. The ordinance of a city or a county says you must have a subsurface transformer, which means level to the ground, not on a pad, the green box above the ground. Make sure you check with your city or your county. And then the other one be that a condition of approval. It's a condition for your project, maybe a house or a commercial building or a shopping center or a subdivision or gas stations, that you must have a subsurface transformer. And then if that's the fact, talk with the local power company, because there could be a cost difference from the standard pad mount transformer to a subsurface transformer. In some cases, they'll charge you a cost of ownership, they'll charge you a maintenance fees on them. So you want to check those things out as you're going on. So let's continue with, you're getting through that phase. Now you've gotten through the phase, you know you've got to get to the power company, your application, hopefully your consultant, you put everything in. Make sure you understand what they need. You need a building elevation, you need a landscape plan, probably an intent to show where everything's going to go, basic trench route. And if you're making any changes, you want to be talking to phone and cable. Maybe they want to have some changes. Maybe they want to go in that same trench to upgrade their conduits for future. So you want to think of all the phases that could happen, because you wouldn't want to dig a trench to bring a new electrical underground into your building or your house or shopping center or commercial building, and then find out, oh shoot, phone and cable wanted to get in there too. So when you're planning, that's a part of your planning. What about phone? What about cable? Do they want to be in that same trench? Share the cost of the trench. That's going to get you probably new upgraded cables for phone company and for cable company, new facilities. So that's your checklist. Check your electrical, what you're going to do already. What about gas? What about phone? What about cable? And the reason we share that with you, because many times you focus on just, I got to get a new electrical panel. I got new loads coming in. I have to have EV chargers. And you're thinking of all those things and you forget about the other things. So create a checklist. Know what you're looking for, making sure you create that team again. You can't all do it by yourself. You hire the expert in each portion or phase of your project or each portion of that team. And we talked earlier, the civil, the architect, electrical engineering, and then the utility side, which would be a consultant or the power companies. So you know where you're covering all the bases. Just like you do doing roofing and the plumbing and the lighting and sheetrock work, foundation, same thing, same part of that team. So now you've got it in, it's into the power company, you must monitor it. You must make sure you know what's going on. When it gets in, follow up. If you have a consultant, let the consultant follow up. If you're doing it yourself, follow up. Check with them in 2 weeks, check with them in a month. Where's my job? How's it going? What are we doing? And then you want to make a decision early on. What part of the job do you want? Do you want to do the trenching part, the conduit part, the vault part, the boxes? Do as much as you can do so you can expedite your job. Have yourself or have your consultant talk with the power company. If I trench it, I put the conduit in, I put the boxes in, is there any credits that I get back for doing the work that you're supposed to be doing? Some power companies, PG is a good example, they will give back they'll subtract the cost of their trench, cost of the conduit, cost of any boxes or vaults they'll subtract that off the final contract for your job. Because you're going to get inspection fees. You're going to get their engineering, because they're going to have some engineering fees they've got to do. The cost of the crew to go out there and tie things in. So in closing, I think the most important part is put together a checklist of items you need to do. Starting after the application goes in, what am I going to follow up? What am I going to do? What am I going to need? What work am I going to do, or my team's going to do, or my contractor's going to do to alleviate any delays? In the PG&E territory, you could put in the wire and the transformer. Before you make that step, make sure you're working with your consultant that wire and transformer is available at the time frame you're going to need things going. So let's go back. Let's kind of do a little checklist of our own. First thing is first, create your team. Second thing, work with your architect, your civil, electrician to know what it is you're going to need for that new electrical panel, electrical load. That was our key discussion, upgrading electrical on a house you're remodeling or refurbishing or flipping. Make sure everything you need is there. Make sure you work with a consultant or the power company and ask the questions. Do I have enough power, one, to feed my upgrade? Two, what do I have to do? What do I have to get into you, customer? Get a checklist or create your own checklist. And then once you get the application in, follow up. Stay on top of talking to them about where everything is. Do I have everything? Do you need everything you have? Do not wait for them to call you, because it could be months. You need to be proactive, not reactive. And then once you do get your job or plans, and put it out to trenching contractors, put out to a contractor that does that kind of work. If you don't know who those guys are, ask the power company. They should have a list. If you're working with a consultant, we all have lists of guys that do that work. Make sure you follow up. If you don't follow up, that's how things get behind, and now you're trying to catch up. So it's better to follow up than try to catch up. You have it in the ground, you're ready to go. PG&E has an approved set of plans. How long before the contract? Realize you can do all your work, but until that contract is signed and any money's paid, they will schedule your work. When you're working with, speaking of scheduling work, when you're working with it, make sure you have a pre-con meeting. Once you're ready to go, you have a job, you're ready to get started, all parties are involved, invite them to an on-site meeting so you understand who's going to talk to who. Who's the inspector, who's the trenching contractor, who's the rep, what is going to happen, what's the processes of inspections, and how many inspections can you get, how do you schedule inspections, when do I get the guy out there to inspect, and what time frame, the trench is open or trenches and conduit in. Those are things you need to discuss and talk about at a pre-con meeting. Very important you talk about those things. And then what do you need from the trenching contractor before you finally say, I'm ready to go, PG&E, for you to set my transformer or pull that wire or whatever work they're doing. Make sure you understand there are certain things you have to do after the inspection. Do I need red line drawing, making changes of a job I did? Do I need to get plans to the PG&E inspector so he can get them reviewed? Is the contract been paid? Is the contract out? Has the contract been paid? What's my time frame? These are all items you should have a checklist. Items we do every day so we know what the process is. A checklist is very good to say done, 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 done. Finally, work with the city to make sure that your panel has been reviewed by the city and they've tagged it for a meter. PG&E, any power company, will not set a meter until they know that the city or county has approved that panel, it's ready to go, now the meter can get set. I think we've talked a lot about projects where you're either converting from overhead to underground, or you're upgrading your panel, or you're remodeling a house, you're gutting it, you're flipping it, you're gonna do some improvements. Do your homework, look at every possible item. Electrical, you're gonna do that for sure. Wait, what about gas? Is the gas service large enough? What about maybe some meter change? What about phone? What about cable? A lot of things you can do to make it a smooth transition, and don't forget the parties that could be in that trench that could save you a lot of money down the road. At this time, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for your time today. Until the next time we talk with Power Talk with Sonny Antonio, I'll see you then. Thank you.